My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.
Welcome, guys. A little pre-show warning. This episode contains conversations around dark themes, sexual themes, and murder. So please, if that you find that is going to be a problem for you, I understand. Come and check and listen to me next week when it'll be slightly a lighter conversation. If not, do stay with us, and hope you enjoy the show. But now, I'll hand you over to Tony. Thanks, Tony. As my colleague just said, that this episode will be quite darker than usual, and I'll give you a reason why this is the case. As you may or may not know, that of late I have had some family tragedy. I lost my father, my elderly father, a few months back. And I don't know if any of you have been in my position, and I'm sure some of you have, and some of you will be in the future, and I hope not for a long, long way. But it can lead you down a dark path in your mental state. And I know this is a podcast for entertainment purposes, but at the same time, it's also a way for me to do sort of publicly talk to people and let these things out of my my inner space, if you know what I mean. But also, when you're in these dark areas, you do some, like, I was thinking about this thoroughly, about the connection between the real dark side of humanity and the genre of heavy metal. And I've talked about this before on the show, but this one seems a little bit more, it came a little bit more to me. A lot of people think that, that all heavy metal is satanic, demons and anger and violence and mysticism and dragons, and not always the case. Yes, I can understand that people's perception of the music we listen to would be that. Like, if you really honestly, unbiasedly think in your head, what do you think of when you think of rap music? I tend to think of misogyny, violence towards women, guns, drugs, and that's not always exactly the case, is it? I know that's not the case, because that's just a perception. It's like pop music. You think of modern pop music, what goes through your head? You think of teens, unrequited love, classroom sort of girlfriend, boyfriend scenarios, you know. When you think of blues, same sort of thing. People think of, you know, man's left his wife or his wife left his man, and, you know, he's down on his heels and love is gone. Same with, you know, country music, you know, it's like dead dog. What does my dad used to say? Dead dogs and broken down cars, you know. Um, and women leaving them, surprisingly, because they're unfulfilled. Anyway, so the perception of the heavy metal genre is that is the case, and a lot of imagery in the later, more modern side of the genres, particularly when the later genres sort of sprung up, like death metal and black metal and things like that. When you had all those extreme metal genres, needed to find an output lyrically for the aggression and the heaviness in their music, and I never really see it like that. I never really saw it like that until, I said, when my dear father passed away, and it was in sort of a black dark rabbit hole. I was sort of sitting around trying to find something to listen to. I didn't want to listen to music. There's a point when even music can't soothe you, and I was like, I need to put on. I'll just listen to a podcast. That's what I do. And I don't know why I came across this serial killer one, and it took me to a very dark place. And I don't mean in a bad way. I'm not going to harm anyone or harm myself. It just made me think really of the awfulness of humanity. And then I thought, we write songs about these people, these vile human beings, these that I don't even know if I can call them humans, to be honest with you. And when we write songs about them, are we? I make documentaries and movies. I mean, like the Dharma documentary, the Dennis Nielsen documentary. You know, the movie. I mean, is it us telling each other to look out for these kind of people? Is it pure voyeurism? Is it I don't know, a distance? We're so far away from the vileness of it that it almost becomes a dark entertainment. And I don't know. And I won't deny it, you know, when I was 15, 16, that sort of thing, I was really into that kind. I had a mate called Mad Mark, we used to call him. Well, I called him Mad Mark because I had a couple of friends that were called Mark, and he was Mad Mark. And he was really into his serial killers, and he was one of the first people I knew to listen to extreme music. So he really got me onto, it sort of got me onto the darker side of, you know, this Celtic Frost, and he was really a big Celtic Frost fan, and even Gigi Allen, which is like our crazy horrible, and you know, he got me onto Venom more than I was. I was a Venom fan, but he really sort of cemented it. Yeah, and I'd go around to his house, and he'd have books and books and books on serial killers and mass murderers, and it's the same kind of people that are fascinated with the final solution, Hitler's final solution. It's sort of, I don't know whether it's because we can't understand it, and so we want to look at it. Like, you know, when you it's like that wet paint syndrome. Like, don't touch the paint when it's wet, but you're going to touch it anyway. It's like, don't look, you'll look. You know, you have to look. You know, it's sort of this curiosity on what people can do. And I thought, is it entertainment? Should we be writing music about this subject? Are the victims of these vicious people, men and women and children, are they lost because we are almost hero worshipping in a very sick way these perverts, right? I don't know. I listened to a really good podcast about the victims of the Ripper a couple of years ago. Is it called The Five? And it's written by, I can't remember who it's by. to look it up, but she just look it up. It's called The Five, and it's from the point of view of the victims of the Ripper. So they weren't all sex workers as they're made out to be, and so she wanted to bring back the human being lost, not the man who took the lives. And I really felt that was a real moving experience for me. And so when I was listening, once I listened to this serial killer podcast, I listened to, gosh, maybe 8 or 9 stories, and most of them I knew or knew of, some I didn't. And then I thought, there's a band I really like, and there is a band I really like, and it's the band I originally meant to do this podcast about. But I just don't want... The reason I'm not going to give the whole episode over to this one band is not because they're not good, because they're amazing. Is because I don't really want to just talk. I wrote all these notes about all the different murders the song's about, and it really sent me into quite a dark place, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. It really, really did. And so I thought I will talk about them in passing on this later on in the show. But there's a point when it stops becoming entertainment. If you're singing along to a song like I found myself doing, and I've done it for years. I mean, Slayer's Dead Skin Mask is a classic example. It's actually one of my favourite Slayer songs. It's about Ed Gein, who was was he in, whereabouts was he in Massachusetts? I can't remember where he was now. But anyway, he was the inspiration behind the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, he'd exhume bodies. He was a necrophile, which means he slept with the bodies, I believe. He made lampshades out of the skin, masks out of the skin, bone chairs. You know, he was a murderer as well. I mean, it's just quite vile what he did. The degradation of the poor people that had passed away, and so but I'd sing along to that song, you know, and I've mentioned on this show before. I think it's a brilliant lyric, chilling, dark. You know, it's quite cinematic. You know, most of us out there have seen Psycho and love Psycho and know that that's based on the Ed Gein story, which is, you know, Robert Bloch's book. And yeah, anyway, so look, you know, I thought, what other bands are there that really dive into this? And what other genres of music? Not many, right? You don't find sort of prog rock bands dealing with it. You don't hear blues bands or pop bands even. They just wouldn't do it. It's not a subject that kind of music can be put to. But this one can, and I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'd love to know what you think. I'm sorry I'm rambling this week, but honestly, it's taken me a good couple of hours just to sit down in front of the mic. I almost completely dropped this subject to go for something else I had backed up. But I thought, no, I've done the work now. I might as well get it out of my system, as I never will. So, yeah. Is there a particular, you know, band that you know of that write songs around the, you know, serial killers and I hate to say, as rapists and you know, all the horrible things in the world? I'm sure there are. Now, you're probably thinking, where's he come and get to the point? Look, I'm getting to the point. I'm rambling because it really did. It's been a tough one, this one. I almost didn't do it. Let me just have some of my tea 1 second. And it got to the point where I had to stop listening to all that stuff, and I had to go and sit down. And I'm not lying here, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I sat down and watched a load of the Great British Bake Off because I needed something humble and wholesome and slightly different to where I usually go. And you know, it helped. the inanity of someone making a bad cake and getting upset over it seemed to soothe my my soul a bit, because I thought, well, they're getting upset over a cake that's gone flat. That makes me laugh, and I needed that. I really, really did. Also, went to see an XTC cover band with my friend Jeff, and fuck, they were fantastic, so good, and that sort of took me away from it a bit as well, which helped. Anyway, that's enough rambling for this side. On the other side, we're going to talk about this band, Skynd, what I know of them, their tracks I recommend you listening to, and their subject matter around that. As I said, there's a couple other bands we might talk about as well. We'll see if we get time. I hope you've stayed with me. Yes, it will get a bit dark. Warning, that was the easy bit of the show. Coming to the other side is going to be a bit more stomach churning. And I don't mean that in a good way either. Is there a good way of being stomach churning? I'm not sure. Anyway, listen to the ads. That might cheer you up a bit. They might sell you a mattress or some bank accounts. Who knows? I don't know what goes on there. Otherwise, skip 15 seconds and see me on the other side. Bye for now, guys.
To get people excited about Boost Mobile's new nationwide 5G network, we're offering unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month.
Forever.
Even if you have a baby.
Even if your baby has a baby.
Even if you grow old and wrinkly and you start repeating yourself.
Even if you start repeating yourself.
Even if you're on your deathbed and you need to make one last call.
Or text.
Right, or text. The long-lost son you abandoned at birth.
You'll still get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile.
Forever!
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Forever!
At 1-800-Flowers.com, we know that connections are at the heart of being human. Whether celebrating life's joys or comforting during tough times, 1-800-Flowers helps you express what words can't. For nearly 50 years, millions have trusted 1-800-Flowers to deliver thoughtful gifts that help create lasting bonds. Because it's more than just a gift. It's your way of showing you care. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST and connect today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
It took a lifetime to find the person you want to marry. Finding the perfect engagement ring is a lot easier. At BlueNile.com, you can find or design the ring you've always dreamed of with help from Blue Nile's jewelry experts who are on hand 24/7 to answer questions, and the ease and convenience of shopping online. For a limited time, get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com. That's $50 off with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of the show. As I said, this is a slightly darker side. The first side was a bit more philosophical, if you know what I mean. So the band I'm talking about is Skynd, Skynd. Now, they're a 2-piece industrial rock metal band. It's very hard to put them in a pigeonhole. They consist of 2 members, Skynd being the lead singer. Imagine a tall woman in corpse paint, but in a very interesting, I guess, very hard to describe her, or they, I don't know how they see themselves, but it's apt for the music, coloured contact lenses, very terrifying visage, actually, if you weren't used to it. I was so looking forward to seeing her at Soundwave, Download, just before COVID, unfortunately, and it got cancelled. And then there is Father, which is the other musician. Now, reportedly, they met at a party in Australia. So we're not sure. I'm not sure if they are actually an Australian band. No one knows who they actually are or where they're actually from, which is, I find, I find fascinating, and it's what also drew me to the band as well slightly. Also, the music is amazing. She's known for a diverse vocal style, ranging from high-pitched to low-pitched, often with an inhuman quality. And Jonathan Davis from Korn is a big fan, and he's on one of the tracks I'm going to talk about later. This is a quote. Now, sorry, I'm going to butcher this quote. This is a quote from Skynd. I want to get as close as possible to the evil that humans are capable of. I am obsessed with it for weeks, months, even years. I've been trying to get into the heads of these vicious, cruel killers. There was nothing more fascinating to me than the people who have reached the boundaries of their humanity. And that says a lot. Now this is why I dance on the edge of finding this stuff tasteful and distasteful, because this stuff, I think what Skynd and Father are doing is trying to get into the head of the killer psychologically. I don't think they ignore the victim by any means, and it doesn't seem like there's glorification. Like, what you don't want is to glorify or make these people cult heroes as some kind of sick superheroes, right? Because clearly they're not. Other bands in the past, as I said, like Ozzy's done it. Sabbath has done it, to some extent in some of their lyrics. Slayer is the classic example, and of course some of those really obviously obscure, really extreme bands, with labels that you can't read, that kind of stuff. I'm sure that they're playing around with all that kind of issues, but what I worry about is I don't know if they're going to be doing that with like Skynd from a psychological point of view. So the music itself is really a mix of industrial metal, sampling, drum machines. Father was an old multi-instrumentalist. Plays the bass, plays the drums, guitars, keyboards, sampling. As I said, I can't quite put my finger on its style musically. It gets very heavy. Those that love heavy music, as we all do here, it gets really heavy. In the same way that sort of Killing Joke, Ministry, Nine Inch Nails, in that kind of vein, yeah. So if you like that kind of thing, you're going to like this. They're not very long songs, 4 odd minutes each. They don't have albums. They've got 2 EPs, Chapter 1, Chapter 2. They came out in 2018, 2019, and then a lot of singles. And each single that comes out is based around some form of hideous human being, or human beings, I should say. And to name a few here, you've got they've done Heaven's Gate, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Bianca Devins, Robert Hansen, Edmund Kemper, John Wayne Gacy, the Columbine, quite a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily think were, as I said before, worthy of an entertainment factor. But these people really do fascinate Skynd in a lot of ways, and they fascinate all of us, to be honest. Deep down, we have to admit to it that we are fascinated by them. We don't like always to admit to it, but we are. And here's a quote from her as well. Let's see what we got here. We all conceal something behind the earthly facade we show to the world. Maybe it's an unspoken fetish, perhaps it's a covetous urge, or it could just be a kind of darkness acknowledging passing. But don't dare reference it out loud. Skynd peel back those layers and uncover what lurks behind in all of this painful glory. The industrialized gothic electronic duo, that's a good way of describing them, exercise beauty by bloodletting as they mine some of the history's most baffling, bizarre and brutal crimes across their EPs. Yes, they do. So the first one that I was going to talk about, there's 2. We'll do chapter 1 and chapter 2. All right. So chapter 1, again, please, if you're finding this disturbing, just skip forward or come back next week. I'm sorry if I do offend anyone. It's not meant to happen. Okay, so chapter 1. So we open with chapter 1 with Elisa Lam. This is a really, really good, completely, what's the word? Captivating piece of music. It really captures. It's really weirdly. It's almost sing along. It's quite eerie. It's very terrifying. None of the pieces of music you're going to hear from this band, if you are brave enough to play any stuff after the show or know them already, then it's not going to make you go, oh yeah, rock and roll. It will give you the heebie-jeebies, and it gives me, as my dad would say, the willies in quite a way. So Elisa Lam, those who don't know who Elisa Lam was, sadly, it was a big thing on the internet, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now. There's a video. If you go to YouTube and type Elisa Lam in, you'll see a very chilling, very disturbing video of a smallish Asian lady, youngish, who's only in her 20s, in a lift, black and white security video, and you see her hitting the numbers, very agitated, looking in and out of the lift, back and forth, doing some very strange things with her hands. And it was the last video of her seen alive. So she was found on February the 19th, 2013, body of Canadian tourist Elisa Lam was recovered from a large water tank on the roof of the Stay On Main Hotel in downtown LA. She was a guest there and hadn't been alive since January the 31st. Found by a cleaner worker because there were complaints of the water pressure being low and a smell coming from the water. She'd been reported missing from the 8th of February because she had bipolar, and she was on medication, but she hadn't been taking her medication. And what makes it the creepy thing, and it's not just her jumping into water tank, is a couple of things. Firstly, you couldn't access the tanks on the top of the roof because the doors were locked. Had you tried to break through those doors, you would have set the alarm off. The only way up was through a fire escape outside a window. Police dogs who were tracking her scent did not get the scent anywhere near the window or the ladder. And also the water tanks are huge, and they're quite high up on the ladders, and you have to get the lid off, you need a fair bit of strength. And she somehow got in and put the lid, or someone put her in. This is the mystery. And the lid was put down on top of her. Now, sorry, I got sidetracked. It's the image in my head. One second. So there are all sorts of theories, because she was naked and with no sign of abuse, no strangulation, no nothing. So there's a cult. There's theories that that she'd been playing this game where you go up and down the lift a certain amount of times and you summon demons. And I'm sorry, those that are going to laugh. I'm just saying this is what a lot of internet people are saying. There was no signs of harm on her. That is the thing, right? Yeah. The video for the song is a reenactment of the video of Elisa Lam in the lift, and the lyric that Skynd puts through on this song, and again, it's really it's quite an addictively enjoyable song for a very dark subject matter, and a very strange and unusual subject matter, because it's still unsolved, by the way. Let me just get this up. Yeah, it's got this interesting sort of sing-along chorus, which you would not expect. Here's the lyric here. It's cold in here, I want to get out. I'm slowly dying. Could it be me? I'm in my watery grave. Black water, no quarter. Now I'm stuck in here, screaming because my friend's time's running out. 4-2-6-2-10-5-1. I told you not to play my game. And that's to do with, and then now you're gone, ring-a-ding-ding, ding-a-ding-ding, ding-a-ding down, 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 ring-a-ding down. Like it's, yeah. It's because, I said, there is this sort of theory that you can play lifts in this particular hotel, I believe, where you go up to different numbers at certain times, in certain order, and then you'll come to a mysterious floor. I think that's what I remember. Those that are more experienced in this story will know more than I do. The lyrics are, I'm scratching off my nails, keep on kicking the walls, seems I'm never going to find my way out. Started off as a game, but now I'm floating in with my coffin as my breath is running out. So it's pretty dark, right? As I said, she was suffering with a lot of mental health issues. She had been not taking her medication regularly. She was on holiday away from her family. And by all accounts, she was quite jittery and not herself. And you look, I said, if you watch the video on YouTube, I'll try and link, in fact, I will link the YouTube clip in the show notes. So go there and you'll find the link to it. So that's the first one it starts off with. And you think, okay, this is quite a dark subject matter. Can it get any darker? Yes, unfortunately, it sadly does get darker, because they hold no quarter, okay? They hold no quarter here. The next track on this EP is the Gary Heidink. So Heidnik, featuring Jonathan Davis from Korn. This one, okay. Gary was born on November the 22nd, 1943. He kidnapped, tortured, and assaulted 6 women. Murdered 2 of them while holding them in captive in a self-made dungeon pit in his basement of his house in Philadelphia between 1986 and 1987. He was, after his arrest and subsequent capture, he was put to death by lethal injection in July 1999, Pennsylvania. 1994, sorry. And he was one of the inspirations behind Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. One victim, 24-year-old Sandy Lindsay, died unfortunately from the abuse over a few days by Gary. So he'd sexually assaulted her, starved her, beat her, and subsequently, whether he meant to or not, she died. And Gary then cut her legs and arms off and had trouble with them, so put them in his freezer marked dog food. He then cooked, supposedly, and this is supposedly, sorry, it's going to get worse, cooked her ribs and boiled her head, and then ground it down and fed it to his next victims, who were also chained up in the pit. And at one time there were 3 chained victims at the same time. This is only a rumour that he fed it to them. I mean, he definitely did the cooking bit, whether he fed it to them or not. They lot say he used that as a plea for his insanity clause. But of course, unfortunately, he knew what he was doing because he went to get them. He made the pit. He's not insane. There was forethought there. There were a few times that police came to the house because there was a funny smell, and he explained to the police officers that he was making a roast. And they said, yeah, no problem, okay. and left him alone. So, he was free to carry on. He used to like electrocuting his victims by filling the pit with water, dropping his victims in, and then attaching electric cords from the wall socket onto the metal chains while they were in the water, and he'd get each victim to do it to each other. Real piece of work here. Real piece of work. He was caught, interestingly enough. One of his last captives, 20-year-old Agnes Adams, convinced him to let him go so she could go and see her parents one more time, just say bye-bye. And he drove her to the petrol station and let her walk from the petrol station while he was parked there to her parents' house. But she went to her boyfriend's house, explained what happened. They called the police. Then the police saw that she had cuff marks on her wrists and ankles, and it sped straight to the petrol station and arrested Gary. He had an accomplice who turned evidence on him, apparently watched him do his crimes. But that, again, I'm not sure if that's a true fact or not, or a Wikipedia thing. But, it's funny how these evil men and women get caught from doing the simplest things. So many times listening to these podcasts did police completely ignore the victims because they were either black, Hispanic, poor, gay, drug-addled, disenfranchised, yeah? And that's, again, why I find bands like Skynd very interesting in where they come from. Again, this song here is actually really good. There's a lot of I don't know if it's actual voice recordings of the police in sort of mixed into the back as it leads out, but it's got some very dark lyrics. I'll get them up for you. Here we go. Excuse me. Yeah, be prepared. Here we go. Right. Do I have the lyric on this one? Oh, no, I don't have the lyric on this one. What's going on? 1 second, I'll grab the lyric. Here we go, sorry. On the corner of Gerald and 3rd or 6th, line coming, here's your $50, bitch, get in the car, it's Thanksgiving. So he used to pick up sex workers, as I said before. Off, whip, chop, mix, shut up and shut up. I don't want to hurt you, I don't want to hurt you. So he's clearly got these, feelings of guilt while he's doing it. He thinks he's just loving them, but he's not. Dark shadows of an evil mind. God has a sense of humor. Dark shadows of an evil mind. God, he would be amused to see you at my feet. And then they talk about the different streets. So 35020 North Marshall Street. That's where he lives. One arm in the freezer, one leg in the blender, a head on the stove. Return to the sedan. No, sorry. And then the darkness knows all the thoughts that I think. Oh God, he would be amused. Dark shadows of an evil mind. God has a sense of humor. Dark shadows of an evil mind. And then they got the lyric that says the dog food look good enough to eat. The basement is so peaceful. You are naked. I smoke. Now there is one more cracker. Devil's cookies in your throat. Cook hair, jar bones. Shut up, shut up. It's quite nasty. And it's sort of broken up into these really high pitch, very computerized, very industrialized vocal tones. That includes Jonathan's vocal as well. He sort of growls a bit darker on that one. It is a really horrible scenario. And I mean, thank goodness, or to some extent, it's a shame that he got away with what he did. I mean, the two that were murdered, at least they're out of it. They're gone, sadly. But those other 4 that got away, after being so heavily abused, it's surprising that they could live a normal life. And that's one of the things as well, that is it right to have this music and this kind of thing? What would happen if the victims who are still alive came across this? Would they find it telling the world their story, or would they find it a sick and voyeuristic twist. I don't know. I really doubt that Skynd are doing it in a voyeuristic way. They're not, because it's not music, easy listening music. It's not music to put on your stereo and sit down with your friends in the lounge room and listen to, or do your housework to, or cook to. It is music that will challenge you, and it is difficult music. And like all subject matters like this, is going to be difficult. So I think on the flip side, Skynd aren't like that. They're not glorifying and subjectifying the evils of these people, but they do make amazing music behind it, which does and will scare the crap out of you. The next track, where are we at? Sorry. So the next one is Richard Ramirez. Okay. Richard Ramirez, most of you who are interested in the darker side of life will probably know who Richard Ramirez was, or used to be. He was the Night Stalker. Born on February the 29th, 1960, his killing spree in LA and San Francisco went from April 1984 to August 1985. Killed at least 14 people during his various break-ins, most in the afternoons. He was sentenced to death, and he was executed in 2013. So, he died while waiting to be executed in 2013. There's all sorts of things about Richard Ramirez that gives me icks. I mean, all of it's icky, right? But his cousin, one of his earliest memories when he was 5 or 6 years old, his cousin, a Vietnam vet who had PTSD and schizophrenia and bipolar, all sorts of things that go on and that come about by seeing the evils and horrors of war. Used to boast about his war crimes. He also killed his wife in front of Richard, in front of his 15-year-old Richard, not 15-year-old Richard. He had a very unhealthy obsession with his cousin, and they would go and do survival techniques, which he would then later use to help him murder his victims. He was really into the occult and devil worship and Satanism. This is not one of the reasons that he was a killer, but it's one of those things that I think, because he was moving down the dark side of life, he wanted to fight that, sort of he latched on to that. Because not, as I've said before in this podcast, not all Satanism is about sacrifice and murder. In fact, Satan worshippers are actually it's just basically another religion, really, like the darker side of Christianity. He was a big drug user, a drug user from the age of 10. That's really sad, right? When he moved to LA from Texas at the age of 22, he was a habitual coke habit, and that coke habit caused him to break into homes to pay for his habit. But of course, it all went very, very wrong for Richard and for the poor victims that he, took as his trophies. So he was charged with 12 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, 11 counts of rape, first-degree burglary, 14 counts. He got 19 death sentences. Yeah. He, do I? So he was mainly in the San Francisco Bay Area and Los Angeles, as I said before. His weapon of choice was handguns, to various types of knives, machetes, a tire iron, a claw hammer, pistol whipped, strangled many of his victims, both with his hands, and one instance a ligature, which is like a rope. stomped at least one victim to death in her sleep, and tortured another by shocking her with an electric cord. Ramirez also frequently enjoyed degrading and humiliating his victims, especially those who survived his attacks or whom he explicitly decided not to kill. I'm not going to go through every single one of them because there were far too many, and I don't want to add to his notoriety, to be honest with you. I'll tell you how he got caught. Oh, let's find that. I wrote this down. I really had struggle writing all this down, I'll be honest with you, because it got really quite sickening for me, to be fair. I know this is a music podcast, but again, this is a really good dark track by Skynd. They really bring this nasty human being quite starkly into reality with their industrial sound. Let's have a look here. Capture. On August the 30th, 1985, Ramirez took a bus to Tucson, Arizona to visit his brother, unaware that he'd become the lead story in a virtually every major newspaper and television news program across California. After failing to meet his brother due to his not being at home, he returned to Los Angeles early on the morning of August 31st, where he walked to the past police officers who were staking out the bus terminal in hopes of catching the killer should he attempt to flee on the outward bus and into convenience stores. After noticing a group of elderly Hispanic women fearfully identifying him as El Matador, Ramirez saw his face on the front page of a newspaper, with a headline calling him Invasiano Nocturno, Night Invader. And he fled into the store in panic. After running across the Santa Ana freeway, he attempted to carjack an unlocked Ford Mustang, but was pulled away by angry residents. Ramirez ran across the street and attempted to take car keys from Angela Latour. Her husband, Manuel Latour, witnessed the attempt and struck Ramirez over the head with a fence post. In the pursuit, a group of over 10 residents formed and chased Ramirez down Hubbard Street. They soon restrained Ramirez and relentlessly beat him, and around 8 a.m. the police were called over a disturbance in the area and through other officers other details. Police quickly arrived on Hubbard Street and took a severely beaten Ramirez into custody. So clearly he had been noticed, he had been seen. Thank goodness. I mean, let's get to the song. Get away from that story. Where are we going? Let's have a look here. Here we go. Yeah. Let me get the lyric for you. Here we go. When the evening comes and the temperature's cools, you open your window, oh, Jenny, you fool. Why waste a breath if you don't understand? He'll see you in Disneyland. Liars lie and haters hate. Players play and fate is fate. The fact remains that is how it is. First the crack and then the whiz. Whiz is a euphemism for cocaine, right? Take life itself. It's in your hands. I'll have my way. You know who I am. Wiggle and squirm. Turn white and stop. Your fear would chase will every drop. Liar and haters hate. And so on. And then, shush, be quiet, hush, he said. The demon is alive. The demon wants you dead. Because killing is sex. Killing is sex. Hush, he said. Oh, killing is sex. A lust for life. The lust for blood. I watch your final knot. Government kills, so why shouldn't I? 010, an eye for an eye. Yeah. Brilliant lyric. And again, very torturously dark music. Very ominous. It plays on the characters, God, on the evil person's psyche. It really gets him, and this is the one that really gave me the shivers. I think Gary Heidnick one really gave me the icks, but Ramirez, because I had read a bit about him before in the past, it was like, is this... I'm enjoying this song. Should I enjoy it? It's another thing, isn't it? But I come and go, well, I'm enjoying this. I remember years ago I went to see a film called Man Bites Dog with my brother. It's a Belgian black and white black comedy about a serial killer, and it's about him being followed around by a film crew on his day-to-day killing spree, and he goes through all the way he kills different people and what he does with their bodies, and it's quite dark, very, very humorous, very interesting movie, and I was laughing through it, and came out, and I said to my brother, I don't know if I should have laughed. What, are we bad? Are we evil people? And I went back inside and watched it again and laughed again. And I realized it was just the way that I was coping with the evil realities of what was going on in that particular movie. I have had a brush with a serial killer myself, not directly. My brother, back in the 80s, in the UK, you should sign on. So to get your social security, your government check, you had to go once a week, and you had to sign that you weren't working, and then they would send you your gyro, your check in the mail, right? And the person that my brother saw at his local signing on place was Dennis Nielsen. And Dennis Nielsen offered my brother to go and help back to his house to help him paint his apartment in Cricklewood, North London. His house, sorry. And before he moved to Muswell Hill. And my brother was like, no. Firstly, he didn't feel comfortable. Secondly, he's like, no, well, that's illegal. If I go and help you paint, you work for the government, you'll tell them I'm working, I won't, you'll pay me cash and I'll lose my benefits. So he sort of, didn't take it up on him. It wasn't until they captured Dennis after killing, 12 young gay men, and cutting them up and putting them down the drain and burying them in his garden and doing all sorts of horrible things with them, that my brother saw that picture on the newspaper and went, my God, that was the guy that I was signing on with that asked me to go back to his place. And my brother being gay, it would have, well, I dare to think. I also knew a girl years ago whose friend was a real estate agent and who let us go and see the apartment that Dennis rented in Muswell Hill. Needless to say, I didn't go through the front door. We went up the stairs there because it was being lit. It was very, surprise, very hard to lease. We went upstairs and they all went in. My mates all went in and she went in and they were walking around. And I was like, no, I couldn't even get over the doorstep. I felt such an overwhelming wall of sadness and sorrow and anger. It was, I'm psychic. I told you that before. I have some small abilities, and it felt really, really wrong. Firstly, and then also I just couldn't go in. So I just went back down and stood outside and looked up at the window with the light on the very top floor, or around the area. I don't think it was that was the actual room from the front. I couldn't tell. Anyway, where was I going with that? Yes. So we won't do chapter 2. I'll tell you the who's on chapter 2, because we're coming to the hour now. Chapter 2, which came out in 2019. Jim Jones, of course, this is a very sing-along song, the Jim Jones one. This one about drinking the Kool-Aid. Oh my God, that's the Jonestown Massacre. Most people will know that one. The Tyler Hadley, Tyler Hadley. He killed both his parents with a claw hammer, and then put them in the bed upstairs. He got his friends over, didn't tell them the bodies were there, and they had a party. And Catherine Knight is a missing teenager, I believe. I haven't looked into that one thoroughly enough. But they've done songs on Heaven's Gate. I never got around to that one, sorry. Columbine, as I said. John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown. Quite a few people. So if this subject matter does interest you, and you have got a strong enough stomach. I will link you to a podcast that I've been listening to called Serial Killers. It is very good. It has they use a lot of psychology. It's not glorifying the subject matter, and it's not objectifying the killers and the victims. Yeah, it's quite an interesting. It will take you places where you probably don't want to go too often, and you will need a safety word or like me, Bake Off to clear your head to get into a nice space again. But be warned, don't go down that route if you are liable to feel a little bit sad or depressed like I did. It's not a great thing to do. If you are strong-minded, give it a go. All right, but also give Skynd to listen. It's not everyone's musical taste. It's very heavy. It's very modern music. There's no guitar solos. There's no real. None of the music actually makes any rhyme or reason. It's very catchy. If anything, I would call it dark disco. I would call it evil electro. I don't know. But it's definitely heavy. It's definitely industrial, and I love industrial music because it's that kind of thick, modernist sort of doom music. I love it, and so you might enjoy it. Like I said, subject matter is a bit, but you've heard it from me, so you know where. If you trust me, then you will go and listen, and you won't get too worried. I mean, you could still listen to the music, not know anything about the storylines behind the characters that they're singing about, and you might still enjoy the music. But when you dive down into why and what it's about, which is what I think most musicians want you to do, and you see pictures of them live or her, you're going to think, yeah, this is the stuff of nightmares. I've reached out to try and interview them for the show. We'll see whether they notoriously don't interview, but you never know. You never know. The last interview was done in a darkened room with a small spotlight, and only she spoke, and father just sort of I think he did sign language or something like that. It was really, really odd. But sometimes you have to confront the dark side of your life, and this is often the way to safely do it, if you know what I mean. Anyway, bye for now. Don't get any nightmares. And next week it will be more wholesome, fun entertainment. Normal services will return, and I can get my teeth into something a little bit more different. Anyway, please do like and subscribe. It's as good as a Patreon subscription. As I said, I do have a Patreon. You don't get much for it at the moment. It's just to help me keep the program running. $5 a month, Australian dollars, that is. Do, if you can. If you can't, I'll still be making this podcast free because I love it. It gives me a reason to get up in the morning. So keep rocking. Look over your shoulder. Make sure you're safe, and don't have nightmares. Bye for now.
To make switching to the new Boost Mobile risk-free, we're offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Because you have nothing to lose. Boost Mobile is offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
No, I asked why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Oh.
Wouldn't.
Because you love wasting money as a way to punish yourself because your mother never showed you enough love as a child?
Whoa. Easy there.
Yeah.
Applies to online activations. Requires port in and auto pay. Customers activating in stores may be charged non-refundable activation fees.
Discover Hydro, the best kept secret in fitness. Hydro is the state-of-the-art at-home rower that engages 86% of your muscles, delivering the ultimate full-body workout in just 20 minutes. From advanced to beginner, Hydro has over 500 classes shot worldwide and taught by Olympians and world-class athletes. For a 30-day risk-free trial, go to Hydro.com and use code ROW450 to save $450 on a Hydro Pro rower. That's HYDROW.com, code ROW450.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.